Dungeon of immense suffering and home to many horrific scandals. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Omerku's classroom. The lessons learned in this class were great, immense, and emotional. Let's start with the United Kingdom, also known as Great Britain. Among the first things I learned about the UK are the issues between Britain and Ireland. The conflict between the Irish and the English is a conflict that goes back centuries, from the Cromwell years to the annexation of Ireland into the rest of Great Britain. Then Britain became known as the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, starting in the early 19th century. Irish men and women were treated as second-class citizens in the British Empire. Finally, they had a revolution in the early 20s, which shook all of Ireland, and almost all of Ireland, excluding Northern Ireland, broke free from British rule. Since then, there were several issues between the English and the Irish in the border of Northern Ireland. Another thing we learned about the United Kingdom is its parliament. Since the 13th century, the Parliament has played an immense role in England's history and Britain's history. The British were perhaps among the most democratic nations in all of Europe, mainly because of the sheer power of the Parliament. The Parliament gained traction during the English Civil War when Oliver Cromwell executed King Charles I, and during those years the Parliament ran England. Even after the restoration of Charles II, the Parliament became a dominant force in British politics. The Prime Minister is appointed by the Parliament, and the party of the Prime Minister is determined by the dominant party of the Parliament. The Parliament is divided between the House of Commons and the House of Lords. Back then, the House of Lords were the nobility and had most of the power. The House of Commons represented the common citizen. Today, the House of Commons is 100 times more powerful than the House of Lords. The House of Commons is divided even more so between mainly the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. Today, the Conservative Party mainly runs Britain. All in all, this unit was the most emotional unit of our school year so far, mainly because Mr. Omerku is, in fact, Irish. We also learned about Mother Russia. It is a country with a rich history, but a tragic one as well. Today, Putin's war with Ukraine has devastated the nation, mostly Ukraine, but also the Russian people, with severe economic issues throughout the country. Many Russians are speaking out against the war, but in Russia, they have no voice. Its current politics is mainly influenced by the Russian Empire and the USSR. The Russian Empire ran Russia from the early 1700s under Peter the Great up until Tsar Nicholas II was overthrown in 1917. Russia, devastated by the First World War, was overtaken by Vladimir Lenin, who soon established the Soviet Union, also known as the USSR, in the early 20s. He died soon after, and Stalin took over Russia. Under him, his authoritarian, brutal regime ran Russia to the ground. After the death of Stalin, the Cold War dominated Soviet politics. Between the United States and Russia, there was great tension, with nuclear war almost imminent in the early 60s during the Cuban Missile Crisis. This great tension, this great conflict, created a bunch of paranoia among the Russians especially, but also among the Americans, which still heavily influences both countries' politics to this very day. The next country we'll learn about was China. China is a country with a richer history than almost any other country in the world, which was historically ruled by an empire, ruled by many different dynasties, from the Qin dynasty 2,000 years ago up until the Qing dynasty, which was overthrown in 1911. The Chinese Communist Party, or the CCP, took over China in 1949 under Mao Zedong. Today, October 1st, is a national holiday celebrating the establishment of the People's Republic of China. The party runs almost every aspect of life of the Chinese people, from the lockdowns to the social credit system. The people had to suffer under the government's now brutal regime under Xi Jinping. Previously, China underwent great reforms under Deng Xiaoping in the 1980s, which made China's still unitary party, more democratic, and more open to political competition, and allowed for economic competition as well. The economic liberalization of China led to a great increase of wealth among the Chinese people. The economic success of China over the past several decades has led China to become the most powerful country in the world, just under the United States. But today, Mr. Pooh is a poo-poo leader, so China is going to go down the drain. We also learned about Iran, Mexico, and Nigeria, but I do not have time to cover them. They are all very fascinating nations, and I am still fascinated by each of them. Now, on to the wrap-up. To wrap things up, this class was very unique, including the storytime hours in Mr. Merku's class. The teacher will talk about something in his life literally the entire class, and it was very enjoyable to listen, although we did have an AP exam to study for. All in all, it was a great class, and I'm very excited to take it for the rest of the year. Thank you.